everybody, welcome to Raising Vibrations with myself, Simon. Today, everyone, we're going to be discussing Pluto in Scorpio generation. And I'm just going to be basically giving you my thoughts and insights regarding how I interact with this symbol and the nature of what it actually represents for us as a collective. And hopefully giving you, the person that's actually having this signature in your birth chart, the ability to actually walk away from this with an expanded perspective as to why you incarnated in terms of this generation itself. Now, to a certain degree, this will also apply to you if you actually have Pluto in the 8th house of your astrology chart, just in the sense of what Pluto in Scorpio represents, and that would be probably about it. If you've got other signs, of course, then that would have a different generational effect. Okay, so what are we dealing with here when we're looking at Pluto in Scorpio generation? The first thing to note is that this is from 1984 to 1995, 96 in that period of time. So if you're born between that period of time, you will have Pluto in Scorpio, okay? What we know about Pluto and how we understand it from an evolutionary perspective is that this signature represents the nature of the cause for the incarnation, okay? It's the choice, and it is then carrying with it all the unresolved and unconscious emotional attachments we have to this third dimensional plane, and then that representing to us what keeps us coming back here to explore our nature and to understand ourselves, and so on and so forth, okay? So that's what Pluto will represent. So with this signature, there's actually quite a lot to talk about, all right? The first thing that I want to really start to open with is that the Pluto and Scorpio generation, you're coming into this incarnation firstly to confront the nature of yourself, okay? To understand where your inner limitations exist and how to overcome those limitations by confronting them within yourself, all right? So you will notice that you are incredibly confrontational. You'll notice that you are very in some way, shape, or form, seeking empowerment, and the seeking of empowerment comes through like really zeroing on something and like really focusing on it and saying, that's it, I'm going to focus on that, I'm going to osmose with it, and I'm going to be very, very, very intense when I become locked onto whatever it is that symbolizes empowerment, okay? So you come through to literally confront the nature of yourself, and to literally open up all the types of doorways that exist within your psyche. You've come to explore everything that exists from a psychological perspective about what is the deep unconscious motivations. You're coming through with this really, really strong question of why. Why this incarnation? Why this life? Why am I here? Why are my parents divorced? Why? And it is that sort of probing, that questioning, that allows for this really deeper perspective to allow to manifest. So now you're delving into the psyche, you're delving into the consciousness, you're delving into what exists beneath the surface. And as you sort of start to swim in those undercurrents, you pick up the subtle, more very intense, well, it's ironic, it's a paradox because it is subtle. You can't actually recognize they're there until you really explore them. And then when you explore them, you see them in broad daylight. It goes for all of us that has Pluto in whatever generation and wherever Scorpio is in our birth chart. So you pick up these subtle things, you explore them, and inherently what you're looking at it is from this perspective. It's very black and white. There's no color. It's either on or it's off. And you're really getting to the point of it, to the core of it. And then as you get to the core of it, you go, how is this disempowering me? How do I feel weakened by this process? Okay. And many of you will deeply within inside of yourselves have this core wounding around the need to feel strong. Okay. And empowered, like to be a powerhouse. Now, of course, Pluto and Scorpio in itself is that powerhouse archetype because that's where empowerment exists. However, if you are basically assigning your sense of consciousness outside of yourself and looking at symbols that represent empowerment existentially, when you merge with them, you literally set yourself up for the abandonment, loss, and betrayal that naturally comes with this archetype, which all of you will carry in some way, shape, or form very intensely, whether it be played out through your parental dynamics, where the mother betrayed the father, or you notice that there was the loss of the father, which is particularly something that happens for you guys, which I'll get onto a little bit later in the video. So you've got all these archetypes of loss and, you know, abandonment and betrayal. And a lot of that comes through because the essential security base that you represent as empowerment, that you see as a sense of strengthened, is placed existentially. And you hold that thing, and then what happens is it gets taken away, and you experience the loss. Okay, you experience that dissolving of that reality, and then inwardly within yourself, it's gone. So what you're actually trying to learn here in this lifetime as a generation is to empower yourself through recognizing that when you are seeking to become stronger, because all of you will want to, when you are seeking to become faster, better, more improved, etc., you're seeking to recognize that you're the one that interacts with the things that symbolize this, and you're giving power to it. You are choosing it from your own empowerment, and the thing that's outside of you that is symbolizing empowerment is the process of how you get there, okay? But it's you that's giving power to it, not the other way around. So the examples that I like to use with all my Pluto and Scorpio clients is that you can go, I want to be a writer, okay? And you're in a disempowered state, and you're wanting to be this writer, and you see all these people that have achieved great status and empowerment, and they become your idols. And you use them as mechanisms to motivate yourself in some way, shape, or form to get to that space, as it were, because they symbol empowerment. And then you then look at specific routes, right? Specific routes, as in a journey route. You look at specific routes and angles that you could choose to get you to that point that symbolizes empowerment. So you might go and start a college course, you might go and start university and such. Now, as you interact with that college course, that a sense of university course and such, you can't symbolize that is what's giving you empowerment, okay? You are giving it empowerment. It's your choice. You are empowering yourself through those structures that support the journey to reach your goal. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's a very subtle difference. It's not like that's what's empowering, and then therefore when you're osmosis with it, now you're empowered. It's that you are already empowered. You're actually giving it life, okay? And it's holding space for you to allow yourself to understand that life that it is that you are seeking to osmose with. Does that make sense? So it's very, very important that in this lifetime, because of the sense of empowerment that you are seeking to find, you're learning how to create an inner relationship to yourself that is from self-reliance, that is self-determination, that is inner self-analysis, and that empowerment is found from within, that you give things power. You are the source of creation, okay? And then finally, you start to establish very, very slowly, but over a great period of time, these beams, these support beams. Okay, so you put one support beam down, then you put another support beam down, and then another support beam down. And over a period of time, you start to create this very concrete place that you walk on that essentially empowers you higher. Okay, and part of that process is by recognizing that these fears that you basically have within inside of yourself of loss, abandonment, and so on, are, you know, in some way, shape, or form definitely related to past life situations and circumstances, and that the way that you feel like the rug is not going to be pulled under your feet because you come through with Armageddon consciousness, and I'll explain that a little bit later, is that you're trying to create a very stable, secure structure underneath yourself. So a lot of your decisions in life will be based on that feeling of like, I can't do that, or I can't take that leap of faith, or I can't do this, that, or the next thing, because of the Armageddon consciousness that anything can change in a second. You know, most of you were actually brought up during the period of time where we had the 9/11 incident, okay, amongst other catastrophic events that have happened in the world. And so at any moment's notice, everything could be happy, joyful, and the next minute, bang. and now there's crisis. There's a sense of impending doom. If you have a look at most of the films that came out during a period of time when Uranus was in Pisces, Uranus correlating to the blueprints of the future, and Pisces correlating to the kind of like ending of a cycle. We had a lot of videos come through, a lot of films come through with this death consciousness. Everything's a dying, and we have to surrender to it. And so therefore the end of the world, the doomsday predictions and such. So you naturally have assimilated within your cellular memory that things can end so quickly. And so therefore it's very, very difficult to feel secure in a world that appears to be consistently in death, or loss or abandonment. Early life environments also predict, or not predict this, but place this within your consciousness. Souls that were born between 1987 and 1995, and particularly between 1990 and 1993. So I'm going to say that again. Souls between 1987, okay, to 1995, that's the time frame there, and then particularly between 1990 and 1993 will carry the signature of Uranus conjunct Neptune in Capricorn. Okay, all of you will have the signature within inside of yourself. It's just that the orb in which those planets touched each other vary, and they're very, very intense between 1993 and 1995. Pardon me, 1990 and 1993. That's when they were making these conjunctions. And so what this actually symbolizes in the context of the Pluto in Scorpio generation, which all of you guys will have, part of you, is the sense of disempowerment that it comes through your life, where you're incredibly intelligent. You've got so many gifts. You're empowered. You know what I mean? You're strong. You're like, come on. I'm confrontational. I accept the challenge. I'm here. I'm raw power. And you assimilate all of these wonderful, brilliant gifts, etc. And you end college or you finish school, etc. And you can't find a job. Or you have to do jobs that are incredibly disempowering, like you have to work at McDonald's. For instance, okay, and you have this very strong, like, raw power, and yet this kind of humiliation process where you're not actually representing that hardcoreness that it is that you have within inside of yourself. So there's this kind of interesting disempowerment process that you guys experience, and you also come through with the archetype of the governmental structure. Many of you that went to school will probably incredibly the word is defiant, but it's not a negative connotation that I attach to it. It's along the lines of like, hold on, I understand your limitations as a teacher, or understand the rules and regulations here. I don't want to feel disempowered by this process, so I'm going to be very confrontational. So many of you will come through with the schooling system where you'll hate it, or you'll have no respect for the teaching structure or the schooling structure. And yeah, rightfully so, the institutions are created in a way to in some way, shape or form not offer the best mind expansion that could possibly exist. So a lot of you have an incredibly strong resistance towards the school structures, and probably went through school very argumentative maybe, or confrontational in that way, maybe didn't, you get the points I'm trying to make. So naturally that's going to lap over into the governmental systems that are going to take place. So a lot of you are going in and going like, have you seen how we've been completely lied to? Can you see how we have been completely suppressed by the governmental structures and the institutions, etc.? You're literally you carry the blueprint within you. And now this ties me back to the original point of the conversation, which was those Uranus-Neptune conjunctions, okay, that was in Capricorn, that you come through with the blueprints of actually disintegrating the current patriarchal system and structure that we have in place, and the societal structure, by not only completely dissolving it through that Uranus-Neptune conjunction, but you also are coming through with the confrontation of like, this has been completely delusional, like we have been completely suppressed. There is no ways that I'm gonna accept this overpowering type of nonsense that has been projected onto us. Now, whether this is actually actively awaken you is a different story, but most of you will feel this disempowerment process, and many of you will be, I've looked at so many YouTube channels with astrologers that are of this age, etc. There's such a strong empowerment process. You know what I mean? There's so much about changing the way that we define our reality. In fact, you were also growing up during the period of time where YouTube exploded, where the cellular and internet technology exploded as well. And that's because of that conjunction. So I watch a lot of these gamer YouTubes, not me personally watch them, but I see how they've established themselves as like this guy called PewDiePie and many others that literally earn more money or have more free energy to do random stuff through their lives than any of us that have accomplished within 30 years of work at the lumber mill, for instance, you know, for the souls that were born in 1963. That represents empowerment, like raw power. I can do whatever I want. I don't have the law to abide to in that sense. I don't have to wake up in the morning at 7 o'clock and do the things that I need to do. I'm liberated because I'm on television pronouncing myself to everybody in a way that represents my own inner child, right? Okay, because you come through with that wounded inner child that was suppressed because of the absence of the father and so on and so forth. I will get back into that a little bit later. So there's this raw power. These guys are literally at the age of 22, 23, and they're millionaires already. And even, you know, older in that sense. And then you've got the other side of the spectrum where these souls are living under the incredible suppression of this empowerment. And your journey here is to re-empower yourself. And unfortunately, you know, because of the nature of the Scorpio Taurus axis, many of you will actually have experienced quite a lot of lifetime or recent lifetimes of lots of loss, as I've mentioned before. And the reason why is because your actual planet that rules your Pluto is Pluto. Okay, so the polarity point of Scorpio is Taurus, and that's holding on. That's I'm really, really safe in where I am. I don't need to have other people facilitate my needs and so on. I can facilitate my own, which is fantastic. I mean, that's what you're supposed to do in that way. But you've held on to things for such a long period of time within your past lives that you've actually created no evolution. And hence the reason why in this lifetime you'll come through with this confrontational nature within inside of yourself of like, what are my desires? And how am I really, really understanding my choices karmically? How am I deeply connecting to something that is beyond the material plane? How am I learning to let go and share? So you'll come through with this consciousness again of lots of loss. And in that loss, you'll learn what the true meaning of your life is about, which is not to hold on to the physical in that way, but to learn to evolve through the physical. Okay? Because the feminine archetype holds us as the womb, as masculine comes in. So you're expanding your consciousness on the feminine archetype, but you're looking to ascend up. So you guys have kind of like got, you know, attached to this physical plane of existence of luxury and raw power and not actually allowed yourself to ascend spiritually. So there's lots of loss causing that deep inner sense of like, I need to know why this is happening, then forcing the evolution to take place. It's pretty neat, isn't it? All right, guys, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk to you about the Pluto in Scorpio generation. I really hope that this was informative and it sort of expanded your sense of awareness around your own personal journey. If you're interested in having an astrology reading with myself, I do offer those services. And I also have what is called a metamorphosis program that is currently starting. All the details are on my website. The link is in the description. I highly recommend checking that out if you're interested in a spiritual transmutation cycle with me. So all that information will be in the description and you just click on that. Other than that, guys, hit the like and subscribe button and share this material with everybody that you feel that you would think would benefit from this, and have a fantastic day. Take care. Bye-bye.